Okay, so you got these selection masks at the top of the of the My interface, and what these guys are for is if I just drag a box like this, what it's done is it's selected an IK handle because that's well, there's an IK handle there. And that's the first thing that it looks for is IK handles or selection handles. Okay, so if I take this NURBS curve, actually let's do this one, and bring up the attribute editor, which of course shows up off screen. Let's see, over here, and there we go. Component display, and I think it's over here. Display. Okay, display handle. If I turn that on, it says optimistically. That should have popped on. Oh, yeah, it did. It's down here. Toast. All right. Well, it happens to be located down here where the pivot point is on this object. All right, let's grab this guy and turn his on, and so we can see it better. Okay, so still not really showing up. Odd. Yeah, no, they're turned on over here. Okay, so anyhow, so the selection handles, all right, they look like that. It's a little black cross. That's all it is. All right. If I go to component mode, let's see, component mode, which is probably confusing things. Okay, I can move it somewhere. All right, now back to objects mode. So there's a selection handle. They usually pop up at the pivot, is where they're natively located, and they're just there for selection. Okay, so when I do a box, okay, like that, the computer says, Maya says, oh, is there a selection handle or an IK handle in that selection? If I right mouse button, you can see that right here. We have two checkboxes. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. I now drag a box, and so because I've turned off the selection handles, it doesn't look for that. It goes, hey, are there any bones in this box that he's drawn? So I draw a box like this, it grabs the bone, and everything below it gets highlighted. Okay, so that's what the bone selection does, and it's just skeleton joints or bones. Okay, next we have curves. Okay, so I have these control curves out here, and so one of the reasons I set up my characters with these control curves is so I turn everything off, get it so I can only select these curves, and then I can very easily grab the things that I need to move and move them. Okay, and so yeah, it can really be that simple. So that's the curves there. Okay, and it has, let's see, NURBS curves, curves on surface, and paint effect strokes are the three options for curves. Surfaces. So, all right, so I now can click just on the surface. You'll see I use that one a lot. So I'll be working on something with bones or something, and I don't want to select the surfaces. I'll turn that guy off. And as you see, the options here are NURB surfaces, poly surfaces, subdivision surfaces, planes, and GPU cache? I have no idea. Anyhow, okay. So the next guy here is lattices. And deformers. I don't know if I have any in this file. I might have some down here at the feet. Let's check. Okay, so I have to turn curves back to on, and nope, this guy does not have the feet connected up yet. But yeah, so the just grabbing a head here. Oops, turn the surfaces back on. So it can be very confusing if you don't know what these guys do, and you've turned some off accidentally, or they've gone to a combi selection, okay, which gives you, it's a slight coloration there. It's very subtle in the new version of Maya. It used to be a lot more obvious that, oh wait, you can't select this one geometry type, so I can turn NURBS off there. So now it'll select poly surfaces but not NURB surfaces. Okay, but anyhow, so let's just toss a deformer onto this guy, and of course my deformer shelf decides not to work. And edit deformers, create deformer. Okay, so now I have a lattice tossed on this guy. Yeesh. And so yes, the deformer mask here would make it so I can't select that lattice. So I don't, once I get it the way I want it, and maybe I'm working with something else, I'll turn that off temporarily. So lattices, clusters, nonlinears. So nonlinears are the bend deformer, the twist deformer, the wave deformer, and the sculpt object. So that's what those guys are. So I'm going to delete that guy out. Particles, so that's the same for particles. The last guy down, the second to last guy here, he is lights and cameras and textures, the 3D texture objects. And then the very last guy is locators, dimensions, that's the measure tool, and the IK end effectors. Why you'd need those, I'm not really certain. So yeah, so stuff like the locator here is something that I would select with this last guy, which is the question mark. So that's what those guys are, and why they're useful. In component mode, usually in objects mode, you work with all of them on and maybe a few off. In component mode, you pretty much always have one turned on and the rest turned off. Okay, so here we have the NURB CVs, the poly vertices, the sub-D vertices, and the lattice points. Okay, and so that's how you get to those guys. I turn those guys off, and I have UVs, so they pop up in green. All right, so that guy is the UVs, and let's see, also curve points, surface points. That's yeah, I'm not going to get off on that sidetrack. Okay, well, you have edges here, which allows you to obviously grab an edge. Okay, you have the poly faces, which is a common one that you use. This guy is the NURBS hulls. So I think the eyeballs might be NURBS. I pop up here too. Okay, and turn that on, and yeah, okay, so like here I have this NURB shape, and if I go to hulls, it will select a part of this cage, which is around the eye, and so it's basically a row of CVs. Okay, so there's a hull going from north to south on this, well, what was a sphere, and then you have the ones going around. Okay, this guy is sort of handy. All right, it's and this is the pivot point. So most of you have figured out you can move the pivot points by selecting D on the keyboard, and if I select this guy here, and his pivot point is about there. So by moving him, his pivot point, then, well, with this rig, all the bones are going too. But okay, so that moves the pivot points of various objects. All right. This moves the selection handles. You saw me use that a moment or two ago. So that's just moving those selection handles when you have them displayed. And the question mark is really something we use with bones, and it has to do with being able to rotate these guys. So that's the joint orient axis. And so right now I have Y facing up, but I could actually change that and have X facing down and then Y going along the joint. You see, so you can really change around which directions things are. And so it's basically like saying, hey, north is no longer over that way. North is now this way. You know, so it gets a little confusing. So you'll need that later on when it comes to rigging. And so that's what the selection masks are. Have fun.